Hi, shalom friends. How would you respond to a person you're sitting next to in Starbucks and you happen to mention about when you were young, you watched the moon landing and you were profoundly affected by it and there were tears in the eyes of your parents, and the person flippantly says, I don't believe it. You actually believe that happened? It's the world's greatest illusion. It never happened. And you take him back for a while, and you're looking at him, and you actually happen to know the gentleman. He's very, very active in the community, a nice person, has a flourishing business, seems to be normal, well-adjusted. He says, I really can't believe that you said that. He says, well, what's the evidence that they walked on the moon? And you say, 600 million people watched it, and that was a time when not everyone had TV. There are thousands of people, scientists, technicians, computer experts, that were involved directly in the mission, and tens of thousands that were indirectly. And he says, yeah, they all bought into the illusion. And you say, you got to be crazy. You know, countries, America and Russia, were not friendly, and even Russia acknowledged that we got there first. And actually that sparked a tremendous amount of science. China, Asia, India, even Israel, everyone's in the game now, based on, he says, how many people, even according to American standards, actually landed on the moon? You say, I don't know, a couple of minutes. I think maybe 12. So he laughs. So you're going to expect me to believe what 12 people were taught to say? You're incredulous. Like, how could you deny such a reality? But would you go and do business with this person still? Would you, or would you say to yourself, perhaps he's a little cuckoo, or maybe a little odd or eccentric? But would you say, oh, he's a person I can't talk to because he's anti-science, anti-technology, anti-history, anti-logic? Chances are, unless you yourself are an astronaut or had a close friend that died in one of the Challenger accidents, you wouldn't. Okay, let's now do another denier of history. And here's an African American sitting with you, and I'm making up this hypothetical you. And this hypothetical you starts a conversation, says, I don't understand you people. It's Black Heritage Month. I don't understand why you're making such a fuss about slavery in America. The guy looks at you, what? Slavery in America, first, it's highly exaggerated. There weren't that many slaves. Number two is, there was white slavery. I mean, Irish were indentured servants. There's slavery all over the world. He says, are you absolutely mad? We fought a civil war, Americans against Americans. Over 600,000 people died for this struggle. He says, well, it was an economic struggle. And he said, are you saying that slavery never existed? I said, well, I wouldn't call it slavery. I would call it servitude. I would call it. But what I'm saying is, even if it did exist, it existed just minutely. What do you think this Black American would tell you? If he wouldn't physically molest you, chances are he would say, you are such a racist. He said, no, I'm not a racist. My brother married a Black American girl. I love my nephews and nieces. I love Black people. They're regular Americans. I just don't agree with the history. And this guy is really burning. What do you mean you don't agree with the history? Now I want to stop for a second. Our sympathy would lie with this African American. Why are we more on his side, angry with this white guy who's denying the history of Black America, more than this other white guy who's denying whether or not we landed on the moon? You say, well, it's more personal. You're white. It's not personal to you. And after all, how much evidence do we have? How many slaves today are still alive? You say, no, what's going on over here is he is a racist, because he is denying the very identity of these people. You see, whether the person denies whether or not we actually landed on the moon doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted that medicine is not valid, or science and technology doesn't work. He flies every day or uses the internet. He knows technology works. He knows science works. When he takes antibiotics for medicine, he knows that. He has a fixation or a craziness. He doesn't believe that this particular aspect of science actually took place. But when you deny slavery, when you deny the effect of slavery that America created and still dealing with over 150 years later, it's still an issue that Americans are dealing with. As a matter of fact, not only is the experience less intense, it's more intense. They're actually changing things of the Confederate flag, should be taken down, and so on. There's no more romance given to the South and to the Southern way of slavery, because you really should show no sympathy or even understanding to a person who's trying to rip away from an individual his background, his identity, his experience, and his very being. So now let's do one more denial of history. And here you're sitting, same Starbucks, and this fellow, and you mentioned, I just went to a Holocaust remembrance. It was a very moving memorial. And he says, I can't believe you bought into that as well. It never happened. And you say, what? He said, it never happened. I mean, you go to Auschwitz today, there's nothing there. There are tracks, that's all. There's a crematoria. And they burnt garbage there. I said, are you crazy? We fought a world war against Nazism. He says, yeah, we fought against Hitler. It was a very great war, but that doesn't prove that Jews were slaughtered and exterminated and singled out. There were a lot of minorities that were hurt. And you say, there are tens of thousands today of oral histories of survivors. And there were hundreds of thousands of survivors, and especially those that went into the DP camps. We have evidence from the American army that went into Buchenwald. Do you know that 1945 in Poland there was already a court case against Hess, the commandant of Auschwitz? Do you know the Nuremberg trials? Thousands of pages of evidence only 2 years after the war. In fact, they even showed a movie that was made from Nazis. And what about 1961, the Eichmann trial? He says it's all baloney, it's all hype, it never happened. Israel fabricated this whole thing because they're looking for a moral justification to possess the land that used to be owned by Arabs. And by now, you are so livid, you say, I don't even want to breathe the same air from you rabid anti-Semite. He said, well, hold it. I run a company. My CEO is Jewish. My accountant is Jewish. I have friends that are Jewish. I have nothing against Jews. I'm just saying that your history is false. And if you could compose yourself, you would say, this is not a question of history. This is a question basically of, are there Jewish people? Do Jewish people exist? Is there a concept of Judaism? When you say that what happened in World War II that was not focused on Jews at all, and Auschwitz was a war camp where gypsies and Romanians went just as well as political prisoners, and a fair sprinkling of Jews, a lot of good people suffered. Holocaust is what happened in Rwanda. Concentration camp, that's what's happening in Syria to those poor refugees. Why? You have a monopoly on suffering? What the indignation, the anger, the frustration, the upsetness, the distaste, the revulsion is not so much he's denying history. He's denying who we are. What he's essentially saying is that the experience that happened to the Jewish people were not unique, because Jews are not unique. Jews were a minority, so were the gypsies. What happened to the gypsies happened to the Jews. But to say that they were singled out because they were unique, different than all the other people that wicked man, may his memory be erased, that wicked man focused on exterminating? No, they're not any different. So what he's attacking is not a historical event. He's attacking you as a Jew. And that's why I find so interesting that actually I don't know of an American college or university that would tolerate a course in disproving or minimizing slavery in America. On the contrary, more and more studies are proving that it happened terrible, it's a stain on American society, and we have to deal with it through affirmative action, through this, through that. And yet, there's a strong push in universities and colleges to present alternative Holocaust history. It never happened. It's exaggerated. We have members of that represent countries, whether it be Iran or the like, that say it never happened. Even the person in Israel, who for the life of me I cannot understand why Israel negotiates with him, but this guy Abbas, he himself wrote a paper saying it never happened, it's exaggerated. This is anti-Semitism. It's not revisionist history. It is an attack on the Jewish identity. If there was a Holocaust, it was a unique event because it affected the Jews, who are unique amongst people. You know, it's an amazing thing. Very often, friends and enemies not only are on the opposite spectrum, but they often have two sets of facts. Our friends and our enemies both accept the same set of facts. Our friends tell us, why are you hiding your identity? God chose you. You're the chosen people. You have a holy land. You gave us the Bible. All of the ethics and morality and decency of civilization comes from you people. I am proud to have you as a neighbor. I am proud to support you. I'm a philo-Semite. I love Semites. I find it an honor to be associated with Jewish people. You have brought so much blessing to humanity. Tens of millions of people believe that and affirm that. And unfortunately, much more do the opposite. Our enemies. They say, you're trying to hide from us? You're trying to make believe you're not different? You guys are different. You claim you're special. You claim you're chosen. You introduce to this world a guilty conscience. They're accepting the same set of facts. They just resent it. They just don't like it. And where is the Jew in the middle? He tries to do the impossible. He tries to say to the enemy of the Jewish people, hey, why do you hate me? I'm just like you. Why do you think I'm more clever? Why do you think I want to have world domination? Why do you think I'm harmful? I'm just a regular, decent human being, just like you. And the enemy says, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're different. And the more I protest, or this person protests, I'm not different, the more that strengthens the conviction of the anti-Semite, what a liar he is. He knows he's different and he's saying he's not. But when it comes to the Holocaust, the Jew says, no, I am different. I am different. Don't say that Hitler killed me because he didn't like homosexuals. Don't say he killed me or my grandfather or my grandmother or took an infant and bayoneted it because he was against gypsies. No. He had a hatred for the Jew because the Jew is unique. Say, one second. You just told me you're just like me. What, you want to burn the candle on both sides? I'm saying this so you could consider it. And now I want to end off with a bit of a challenge. I hope you're not offended. What happens if you tell a person, I'm not very observant, but I do keep Passover. The person says to you, you keep Passover? Why do you do that for? What do you mean? Why? It's our holiday. I mean, God took us out of Egypt. I think we should celebrate freedom. And he says, it never happened. And you look at him, you say, it never happened? What do you mean it never happened? There wasn't a country called Egypt? He says, sure there was Egypt, but they never enslaved the Hebrews. He said, did you ever hear the Bible? He says, sure, I heard of the Bible. It's ancient literature, just like the Sanskrit. And you're suddenly beginning to get upset with this man. You're denying our history. You never heard of Abraham or Moses? He said, mythical figures. You never heard of Hercules? Hercules didn't exist, and neither did those people that you mentioned. He says, we were in Israel for 1,000 years with a temple. He says, fine, you guys fabricated a history to make you feel good. What is he attacking? He's attacking you, because what he's saying is you're not even Jewish. What makes you Jewish? Your mother made you Jewish. She wasn't observant, but she was Jewish. What made her Jewish? Her mother. Her mother wasn't religious either. Oh, but she was traditional. Why did she keep her Judah? Because her mother was observant. Basically, our history starts from the Mount Sinai and before that the Exodus, because we have a history. Are you going to buy into Holocaust revisionism? I know you won't. Why buy into repudiating Passover or kosher or Shabbat? We are unique. We are different. We are special. It's time to live up to our responsibilities. Shalom.